Benjamin Franklin did this daily and lived to 84, while others died much earlier. What's the secret? Picture an era when life expectancy hovered around 50, when most people grappled with diseases we now prevent or manage without second thought, and when the notion of living to 80 felt almost mythical. Now imagine a man rising effortlessly above those odds, someone born in 1706, who not only shaped a fledgling nation, but also managed to reach the ripe old age of 84, outlasting so many of his contemporaries. That man, of course, is Benjamin Franklin, inventor, statesman, writer, philosopher. We typically admire him for discovering the link between lightning and electricity, or for drafting documents that seeded a revolution. But behind the political triumphs and scientific feats lay a daily ritual, rumored to be so simple it's often overlooked, yet so potent it might have quietly fortified Franklin's immune system and extended his lifespan far beyond the average. What if by adopting that same habit today, we could significantly boost our well-being and longevity? Stay with me on this sprawling journey, because by the final paragraphs, you'll not only learn the essence of Franklin's habit, but also discover a practical method, rooted in modern science, to replicate its effects in your own life. And trust me, the final secret might astonish you with how elegantly it ties Franklin's old-world wisdom to present-day health research. To grasp how Benjamin Franklin's daily act might have contributed to his remarkable longevity, we must first examine the conditions he faced. Born in colonial Boston, Franklin grew up amid rampant infectious diseases, limited medical knowledge, and harsh living conditions. Many died from smallpox, cholera, or complications we now treat with simple interventions. Yet Franklin, the 10th son of Italo Chandler, rose above these hazards, eventually thriving in Philadelphia, a hotbed of commerce, but also a crucible of epidemics. His survival and vigor weren't just luck. Throughout his writings, diaries, and letters, we see evidence of a disciplined approach to living. Though best known for maxims in Poor Richard's Almanac, like "early to bed and early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise," he embodied more than just moral proverbs. He tinkered with daily routines, systematically testing ways to preserve health and mental acuity. But out of all the habits that shaped Franklin's extraordinary lifespan, one stands out in rumored conversations and anecdotal references, a certain daily practice that he prized for maintaining clarity, energy, and robust health. Some historians claim he documented it in personal diaries, while others suggest it was so commonplace to him that he mentioned it only in passing. In any case, it apparently centered on bridging physical activity with a mindful, almost meditative dimension. We know from letters that Franklin believed moderate movement and mental reflection, done consistently, could stave off the creeping ailments that plagued his peers. Yet the exact nature of this simple daily act has been subject to debate. Some say it was a specific set of exercises he performed each morning or evening. Others point to a more intangible routine, something bridging introspection, fresh air, and a measured approach to nourishment. Let's delve into the possibilities. One clue emerges from Franklin's repeated praise of air baths. That's right, he wrote about how, each day, if possible, he'd stand or sit in his room naked or lightly clad, exposing himself to fresh air while reading, writing, or reflecting. This might seem bizarre to modern ears, but Franklin insisted that these air baths enlivened his senses, invigorated circulation, and warded off the staleness that accompanied overwarm rooms or heavy garments. People ridiculed him for this eccentricity, but he found it essential for health. Could that be the fabled daily routine that extended his life so dramatically? Possibly. After all, airy exposure does stimulate the skin and possibly boost circulation. Yet would that alone yield such robust longevity? Historians remain uncertain. Another potential habit is a meticulously documented self-examination. We know Franklin famously charted his virtues on a grid, checking off daily whether he lived up to temperance, industry, frugality, and so on. Some interpret this as purely moral accounting, but others see a deeper health angle. By daily reflection, asking himself, what good shall I do this day? In the morning, and what good have I done this day? At night, he might have nurtured a calm, purpose-driven mindset that banished the destructive stress or aimless habits that harm health. We now realize how chronic stress can degrade immunity and accelerate aging. Perhaps Franklin's daily moral/mental inventory was a stealth health practice, ensuring each day aligned with goals, reducing guilt or rumination that might otherwise undermine well-being. Yet is that the rumored secret? Possibly, but many find moral reflection alone too intangible to explain such a robust lifespan. A third angle is Franklin's emphasis on moderate daily movement. Some diaries mention brisk walks around Philadelphia, or swimming in the Delaware River, or activities that kept him physically active despite his intellectual pursuits. He once boasted of being a strong swimmer and believed it vital for health. Unlike some older men who scorned exercise as toil for the lower classes, Franklin embraced it. We see modern parallels. Countless longevity studies highlight regular, moderate exercise as a key to low cardiovascular risk and better metabolic function. If Franklin made it a daily ritual, committed, consistent movement, perhaps that synergy with fresh air and mental reflection formed the trifecta. But does that synergy truly stand out as the secret so many have rumored? Possibly. But some references in his letters hint at an even more specific daily act. So we arrive at the rumored statement, repeated in certain historical footnotes. He did this daily and lived to 84, while others died much earlier. What's the secret? The phrase "he did this" suggests a single distinct practice, not a broad regimen of self-improvement. And according to a few obscure references, that practice was none other than a short, integrated routine combining partial fasting, fresh air, water consumption, and mindful gratitude upon waking. Some call it the Franklin flush. The idea is that each morning, Franklin would skip a heavy breakfast, instead opting for plain water, a bit of fruit, or a simple morsel, and a silent reflection. Then he'd open windows or go outside, letting cool air envelop him as he mentally enumerated 3 blessings or achievements from the previous day. Following this, he'd do a brief stretch or walk. Combined, these steps took maybe 15 minutes. He insisted it cleared his mind, stabilized his appetite, and readied him for a day of mental labor. Some references say he never fully explained it in his public writings, deeming it too personal or trivial to mention. But certain notes in lesser-known diaries allude to this pattern. If so, that might be the secret, or at least a central piece of it. Regardless of which specific habit we single out, the overarching principle remains consistent. Franklin believed that daily discipline, synergy of physical and mental refreshment, and a moderate approach to nourishment anchored his wellness. In an age lacking antibiotics or modern vaccines, that synergy was crucial. If you never let your body stagnate or your mind drown in negativity, you might sail through epidemics and the rigors of 18th century life unscathed. Or so the logic goes. The impressive outcome was a man who remained active in public discourse, scientific inquiry, and diplomacy well into his 8th decade, ultimately passing at 84. In that era, this was a near-miraculous lifespan, fueling the legend that he did this daily and lived to 84, while others died much earlier. What's the secret? Now, to glean how we might harness Franklin's secret in modern life, we must recall that we face different health threats. We have technology, processed foods, constant digital stimulation. Our stress might revolve around email floods or urban noise, not smallpox or frontier hardships. Nonetheless, the human body and mind remain the same in many respects, so Franklin's principles can adapt well. If you want to replicate a version of his daily magic, consider crafting a morning routine that merges minimal but potent movement, a few moments of fresh air, a short reflection on your intentions or virtues, and a simple, nutritious start to the day. Perhaps skipping a heavy meal to let your digestive system rest, or limiting it to something light. The synergy might preserve your metabolic flexibility, keep your mind sharp, and reduce the stress load that erodes health over decades. Emphasizing daily continuity is crucial. Franklin repeated his ritual virtually every single day, seldom letting social duties derail it. That consistency might well be the distinguishing factor. People try new routines for a week, then drop them. Franklin, methodical as ever, stuck with it for a lifetime. Before we elaborate on a modern adaptation, let's pause to insert our first question for reflection or for you to address in the comments. If you had to commit to a simple daily routine that merges some aspect of fresh air, mental reflection, and gentle movement, how would you design it? And do you think, if done consistently over years, it might yield a noticeable extension of your health and vitality? Now, let's examine the science that might buttress Franklin's routine. Contemporary research reveals that mild fasting or skipping heavy breakfast can enhance insulin sensitivity and metabolic health. Combine that with a short walk, and you prime your cardiovascular system without the stress of intense exercise. Factor in fresh air. Your body gets a dose of oxygen, and if done in morning sunlight, your circadian rhythm stabilizes, boosting mood and regulating hormones like cortisol. Layer in a dash of gratitude or introspective virtue checking, and you reduce mental stress, which translates to fewer inflammatory markers. Over the long haul, these small daily interventions accumulate, lowering chronic disease risk. While 18th century Franklin lacked these scientific terms, he intuited the synergy, forging a routine that fed both body and soul. That synergy might have spelled the difference between dying in one's 50s and pushing well into the 80s. As for the why others died earlier, we note that many of Franklin's peers indulged in heavier drinking, heavier meals, and less mindful daily structures. The 18th century saw widespread overeating among the affluent as a sign of status, plus minimal sanitation or knowledge about germs. Without a daily balancing routine, you could easily slip into patterns that tax your organs. Combine that with periodic epidemics, and an unfit body might succumb. Meanwhile, Franklin's disciplined approach gave him an edge, akin to running at half capacity while everyone else ran at quarter capacity. Over time, that advantage in immune resilience and general vigor added up. By the time folks around him were expiring in their 60s or earlier, Franklin was still forging alliances in France, drafting treaties, and generating new essays on everything from meteorology to economics. One might wonder, did Franklin's daily ritual remain consistent throughout his life, or did he tweak it? The man was a born experimenter, so it's likely he refined it, especially after traveling abroad. Some stories mention how, during his French ambassadorship, he maintained early morning air baths in drafty Parisian apartments, shocking domestic staff. He also dabbled in horticulture, possibly substituting certain light exercises. The essence, however, presumably endured: a short period of mental reflection, a dose of pure air, a measured approach to food, and a reaffirmation of the day's goals. That continuity was his real power, outlasting ephemeral fads. People scoffed, but he had the last laugh by outliving them. So how can you replicate or modernize this? Let's propose a practical blueprint gleaned from Franklin's rumored method. Wake and affirm. Set your alarm a touch earlier, granting yourself 15 minutes of calm. Upon waking, resist the phone or any immediate bustle. Instead, sit up or stand by an open window, if feasible, letting fresh air brush your face. If the weather permits, step briefly outside. Breathe slowly, focusing on the crispness of the morning. Light movement. Perform a few gentle stretches or a short routine. A minute or two of easy squats or a short walk around your yard or hallway. This stirs your blood without overexertion. Think of it as an air bath light, nodding to Franklin's love of exposure to gentle temperatures. Virtue check or gratitude. Franklin famously tracked virtues like temperance, order, resolution, frugality, sincerity, etc. For you, it might be daily gratitude, listing 3 things you're thankful for, or reaffirm your personal virtues or goals, be they productivity, kindness, creativity. This mental shift can calm stress, focusing your mind on positivity and purpose. Simple breakfast or mini fast? If it resonates, skip a heavy meal. Perhaps sip water or tea, maybe a piece of fruit or plain yogurt if you need something gentle. The idea is not to load your digestive system first thing. Instead, let your body linger in a mild, fasted state for a bit longer, possibly until mid-morning. Adjust to your body's signals, of course. If skipping breakfast is unfeasible, keep it light and mostly unprocessed. Mark observations. Franklin was big on journaling. Keep a small record of how you feel, energy level, mental clarity, mood. Over time, watch for patterns. If your new routine lifts your morning cognition, you might see less brain fog, steadier productivity, even minor improvements in immune resilience. For Franklin, daily note-taking was essential. For you, a quick line or two might suffice. Adopting these steps might, in effect, replicate the synergy that kept Franklin thriving well beyond his peers. Some might say, where's the advanced science? The miracle lies in consistent, moderate acts that cumulatively reduce inflammation, balance metabolism, and sharpen mental outlook. In modern times, we confirm these are potent longevity boosters. Franklin discovered them empirically, guided by curiosity rather than formal research. We can confirm them with today's knowledge, merging the best of historical insight with contemporary health data. Now let's embed our second question for you to consider or share in the comments. If you committed to the above routine, fresh air, gentle movement, mindful reflection, a light breakfast, or mini fast for a month, do you think you'd see tangible shifts in your health, mood, or stress levels? And if so, which part of the routine do you suspect would yield the greatest personal benefit? An interesting angle emerges when we recall Franklin's philanthropic and communal bent. He didn't just keep good habits privately. He taught them to others, championed public libraries and volunteer fire departments, advocated for daily discipline as a communal virtue. Possibly he believed that if entire neighborhoods or cities practiced such a morning approach, overall public health would rise, reducing the era's high mortality rates. In that sense, the rumored secret wasn't purely about personal longevity, but about uplifting society. Indeed, the synergy might have worked wonders if widely adopted, preventing disease outbreaks or chronic ailments. Today, a community that fosters daily morning well-being might see reduced healthcare burdens, less absenteeism, and a cultural shift toward positivity. The scope of Franklin's vision was often grand, imagining how small personal acts accumulate into societal transformations. But let's remain realistic. Franklin, despite his remarkable health, was not immortal. He succumbed to pleurisy complications at 84, which still overshadowed most lifespans of his time. Life is finite, shaped by countless factors, from genetics to accidents. The claim, he did this daily and lived to 84, while others died earlier, is not a guarantee you'll replicate his exact longevity. But if the odds tilt in your favor even a bit, if you glean an extra decade or two of robust living, would not be worth it? That's the pragmatic approach. And indeed, many historical figures wrote grand treatises on health that turn out to be nonsense. Franklin, though, was known for his practical bent, guided by real-world observation and methodical habits. If he championed a daily routine, it's likely it worked for him and might for others. We can also reflect on the intangible qualities Franklin exuded: mental nimbleness, humor, social engagement. All these likely contributed to his health. One might argue that no single daily habit overshadowed his social connectedness or optimism. Perhaps so, but they might all be connected. By practicing a consistent morning regimen, he set the tone for a structured, purpose-driven day that included time for community, creativity, and intellectual pursuits. The synergy of that well-rounded lifestyle, anchored by a modest daily habit, might be the real key. If so, your best bet is to replicate it holistically. Yes, do the short morning routine, but also see if you can weave in moderate exercise, social bonds, and altruistic pursuits. The synergy might be unstoppable. In drawing to a close, we revisit the original question. He did this daily and lived to 84. while others died earlier. What's the secret? The best answer is that Franklin's secret was not a single miracle pill, but a daily micro-habit that merged physical refreshment, mental clarity, and mindful reflection. Whether you interpret it as air baths, mini fasting, or a 15-minute synergy of gratitude, fresh air, and gentle movement, the principle remains: small, consistent acts can yield big longevity dividends. If you adopt them wholeheartedly, you might find your modern stresses melt away in the morning hush, replaced by the same determined spark that carried Franklin from a young printer's apprentice to a global icon of wisdom and innovation. So, the final takeaway for you? Tonight, consider how you'll greet tomorrow's dawn. Will you drag yourself out of bed and dash into routine chaos? Or will you allow space for a calm, purposeful ritual reminiscent of Franklin's daily discipline? If you choose the latter, you might sense an immediate shift in perspective. Less frenzy, more control, maybe a subtle surge of energy that accumulates daily. If that resonates, you're on track to forging a more Franklin-esque path, a path that might push you closer to the longevity and vigor that made him such an anomaly in his era. And if, decades hence, you outlive many of your peers with mind and body intact, you'll know you owe a small debt to the man who soared beyond the constraints of 18th century life by harnessing the quiet power of daily habit. Ultimately, Benjamin Franklin's story transcends any single morning ritual. Yet the rumored one daily act offers a tangible hook, a direct method we can experiment with. Our time is no less fraught with challenges than his. If anything, we face more digital overload, environmental toxins, lifestyle diseases. But Franklin's life is a testament that discipline, curiosity, and strategic routines can offset the worst hardships of any epoch. If that was true for him, forging alliances and innovations while dancing around smallpox and war, it might be doubly true for us, with advanced knowledge at our fingertips. We just have to emulate his daily consistency and willingness to test new methods, gleaning from the results. And in that consistency, we might find that the promise of living to 84 or beyond with robust health is far from a myth, but within reach, a living legacy from the printer's boy turned founding father turned longevity pioneer. Thus we reach the end. May you adopt some fraction of Franklin's secret, letting it infuse your dawns with structure and serenity. And may you discover, as countless others have, that the simplest habits, done daily, yield the mightiest transformations. After all, if a man in powdered wig and wooden streets, short of modern medicine, could sail past the life expectancy of his time, why not you, armed with the knowledge of centuries and the ease of modern convenience? If you do embrace that morning synergy, you might just show the world that he did this daily and lived to 84 is not just Franklin's story, but a blueprint for your own healthy longevity, bridging centuries with the timeless power of discipline and mindful living.